people might not know about this. And I can easy on-ramp people into their journeys using this. I'm really good at people. And I can make experiences where ritual becomes accessible and becomes a part of their healing journey. And they get to take not everything that I'm doing, but just the idea that they can shape their own future by shaping a ritual that manifests that. That's what I want to do. That's where I want to be.
KarmaHub, sharing the spirit of the healing arts.
Early 2000s, I kind of pioneered the rave scene in Baltimore City with a bunch of friends. And so there was a lot of alcohol and drugs and things feeding that. And so that was just kind of part of the culture. And then I grew into my own and started having a family. And then really right around the pandemic, things became immersed in alcohol. It became just a part of my everyday.
Gotcha.
And so after years of that, steady building up, but really the pandemic kind of, doubling down on it. 2 years ago, February 13th, 2024, I almost died. In fact, I was told I was dying. I did not have enough potassium in my body to sustain human life. And my lifespan was about 2 years, so I'm outliving it today. And I have cirrhosis of the liver. When they measured it, I didn't know. They were like, it's 74, 77, whatever that is. It's the highest possible stiffness you could get. So like certain death, right? But I don't believe it. And so I leaned back into my spiritual path, like almost immediately. It was like, okay, so choose life or choose death. And then you have these tools. Go back to them.
Wow.
I quit cold turkey, never did any programs or groups or anything, and just went back to where I was at 14. And kind of leaned more into the witchcraft that I was also kind of part of my practice when I was younger. And a lot of the spells I was doing to both bring health to me, but also manifest the future that I...
Can you talk about those spells or witchcraft or whatever, that particular label?
Yeah, so and I kind of...
A lot of people don't see that label as in a very positive light.
Yeah, sure. And I think in this day and age, I'm comfortable using the term just because it's more ubiquitous, right? And it's kind of become, maybe sadly to some, a little bit more diffuse, but that way it is permeated into kind of pop culture. So when I say witchcraft, what I mean is using earth elements as tools in ritual. So when we say spell is really just a ritual, but you use words and you spell those out. And my philosophy around ritual is that when we engage in ritual, we take the things that have meaning and relationship with us, energetically, psychically, right, just mentally, intellectually, and we organize them in such a way that we see them doing work for us. We are actually conjuring the universe to do that work. So the way that I connect with those elements might be different from you, but if you imagine like spellcraft is me in a meditative state and then working with herbs, with deities, with other constructs and artifacts and things in front of me, to create an experience that embodies what I want to see happen, and then I can come back to as kind of an anchor. My craft.
So you assign intention to different practices, creating sort of like a manifestation of sorts.
So, and I think that's the important part. So when we talk about witchcraft, we talk about kind of like this tradition of folkloric beliefs that are passed down over time that say, okay, so this herb does this magical thing, right? In addition to whatever health benefits it are. Or working with this stone, right, carries this sort of energy. And so like that's where I started at 14, right? Like I had a book called Good Magic. And I would read through and find this is the crystal I'm going to work with, and this is the twig that I'm going to go find, and put my things together the way it was organized here. But over time, and you can see this on my jars of my herbs as well, I have the metaphysical correspondences, but a lot of those are the ones that I knew is passed down and kind of referenced somewhere else. Over time, I've scratched those out and written my own in. And that's my philosophy for other people in ritual too. It is good to be based in some system that you feel grounds you, but it really is your relationship with whatever you are using in that ritual that is going to solidify it and make it have meaning for you. And when it has meaning for you, it has meaning for the universe, because I do not believe that we are separate from the will of the universe. I believe that the universe is attempting to do our will, and the more that we allow it to do that, the more we get out of the way of feeling like it is our action that necessarily permeates and creates these things. We allow other forces to come in and do that. Those things happen. And that goes back to Taoism, right? So there's this philosophy in Taoism called HuBB, and it is action through inaction. It is doing without doing. It is being in the way and allowing those things to happen. Okay. And in order to do that, you need this ultimate faith that the universe is actually conspiring to get those things done for you that are going to happen. Like, yes, I have to take the action and I have to move, but there's only so much I can move with my physical body. But when I take time and I say, I'm in this space, this ritual space, and I'm conjuring, I'm connecting, I'm creating relationships with things in real meaningful ways that are meaningful to me, I'm also permeating and connecting out into the universe. And the universe does not pay attention to noise. Anything done with intention acquires more of the universe's attention. Why would it spend so much time on all of the stuff that's just done out there by accident? When you are taking the time to focus in, you're focusing in the energies. And ritual, witchcraft, whatever you want to call it, prayer, meditation, like those are tools that we use to bend the universe to our will, when actually our wills are the same.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. So I took part in your workshop a couple weeks ago. I'm not really a tea guy. I mean, I drink tea. But it's not really my thing. But I gotta say that your workshop was fantastic. It really was. I really enjoyed it. What made you decide to start doing the workshop? Like, what made you take that step?
Yeah. So I think the question is also like just the pace of my journey, right? Like, I'm 2 years away from sobriety. Okay. I am actively manifesting my best future. Like, the things that have happened to me and are happening to me are, in other people's point of view, inexplicably amazing, right? Right. So the first thing I think I need to say is it was connected to my spiritual journey and getting to where I needed to be in order to offer something to others. I don't think there's a pacing guide on that. I think a lot of times we say, well, I need this number of hours of meditation. I need to have mastered this piece of understanding. All of the things that we need are in you, and you just need to believe that those things that you believe are the things that are true, and have full faith that the universe has your back. That is not as easy as it sounds. I believe we need to get rid of the idea that we just need to deserve the things that we get in life, and rather that they are there for us, and open that possibility. And the reason I say that is because quickly in my spiritual journey, I needed to, as a means of survival, accept that even in the most painful and trying times, the universe still had my back and was working in my favor. And I got there fast because I was under the threat of death, I think, at least in part, but also because of my prior experiences. And I was here a lot at Realize Meditation Center. And I was doing my work here in a couple other communities. And Phil had a talk with me one day, and he was like, yeah, I see it. Like, I'm telling him what's showing up for me in terms of what I'm seeing now from this new plane. And he's like, yeah, I see it, but what are you doing with it? And that night, I was making my tea. I said, what do I mean? What am I doing with it? And I have my jars out and I'm blending it and I'm getting ready to sit down and meditate. And I'm like, people might not know about this. And I can easy on-ramp people into their journeys using this. I'm really good at people. Right. And I can make experiences where ritual becomes accessible and becomes a part of their healing journey. And they get to take not everything that I'm doing, but just the idea that they can shape their own future by shaping a ritual that manifests that. That's what I want to do. That's where I want to be.
You know, I was recording your workshop the other day, and there were a couple little segments. And let me show you this one, and then we'll speak on it.
Sure.
Not that one. Picking the right card. Yeah, I found this very fascinating.
But if I'm being honest, what I really believe is that you've already picked the card. And all of those things are the same as what I'm talking about when I'm talking about doing ritual to manifest. It is convincing your mind that the thing that you want to happen will happen. But the thing you want to happen has already happened. The card that you're going to pick, you've already picked it. So do the thing that helps you believe that you're picking the right card. But you're picking the right card no matter what.
And I found that so fascinating that you've already picked the card even before you pick your card.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak on that a little? Because to me, it sounds like almost you talking about your leg. You know what needs to happen. It's already in the works. It's already happened, created.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, talk a little bit about that, your philosophy there on the cards.
So I'm glad you said philosophy, because this does go to my philosophy degree. So when I studied philosophy, I studied metaphysics.
I see.
Quite deeply under Professor Wing Wong, rest in peace, amazing man. Got me into Kantian metaphysics. And what Kant says is that all of reality is this thing called the thing in itself.
Okay.
And we move through it with these perceptions that we have. We're actually creating time and space through our perception. Like time and space are not something that is inherent in the thing in itself. They're qualities that we give the thing in itself in our interaction with it.
Okay.
So this goes beyond like your middle school, like your green might be different from my green, right? And this goes to like my experience of the very fabric of reality might be different from yours, but it's definitely probably really freaking different from a cat, right? And in ways that aren't just the visual spectrum, right? We're talking like time and space and the makeup of causality, right? So all things have happened and we're just moving through in a way to perceive them, right? So it feels better when I go to, and this is not going to be popular, it feels better when I go to something woo-woo and I am doing all of the motions to pick that card that is calling to me at that moment. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything. I say you're reinforcing, right, that intention in reality and solidifying it when you do. But the truth of the matter is you don't have to. All of those things are already going to happen building up to that moment. It's already happened. You've already picked the card. It is the card that you need to see that's going to deliver the message that you need to know. Because once you know that message, it will happen the way it's supposed to happen. But all of those things have already happened. Free will, we navigate the universe through a thing we call free will, but we understand it through too much of a subjective level, right? Like our free will extends beyond us and it is something that we don't totally understand, right? It is that grasping for control that humans do, that we want to name what the thing is that makes the decisions when actually the decisions are a more dynamic process that we can't capture in language.
So the same sort of concept, does that apply to like tarot cards when people have their cards pulled? There's oftentimes it kind of, you're hitting the nail right on the head. The same sort of idea.
Yeah,
I mean, the cards you're about to pull have actually already kind of been pulled or have already been determined which ones you're going to be pulling.
And what a good tarot reader does, right? So the cards are coming out. What a good tarot reader does is senses the pattern and the connections to the pattern and what's to come, right? So like gives you enough information, says, here's the pattern that the universe is, I'm going to say validating, not, predicting, but validating that is going to happen. And then here's the data that I'm getting. Here's the pattern. Do you understand the pattern? Now I've experienced these things. I'm like, oh yeah, that fits into the pattern. Even when the tarot card reader doesn't know it, they see the pattern and the connections on, and they're able to communicate it in such a way that someone who just is flipping the cards, it might be the right cards, those are the cards, but the communication of what that means and how that connects is the important part, I think, of why we go to readings, right? We have an interpreter to help us.
So yeah, I wanted to, you hit on it a little bit, manifestation. You worked it into your workshop, you worked it in with your tea, intention, the cards. I'd like to dig into that a little further. I do have, once again, I have a clip. Mm-hmm. So we'll take a quick peek at it and then have you kind of expand on it further. Let's see, manifestation.
I add these little parts to my work to make them have meaning for me. And the more meaning that I create in my ritual, the more the things that I want are showing up in my life. I could tell you, I don't know why. I know exactly why. Like I'm programming the universe because I'm programming my internal universe. What you believe to be true determines so much more of reality than you actually know. And so like once we start to take that leap, sometimes it helps to have the things of the world to anchor us in that work here. And that's what I believe ritual is. And that's why I think the work around my manifestations blossoms much more with the herbs and teas as an ally rather than just my practice around yoga and mindfulness and meditation. It adds an element that I'm able to kind of anchor into.
Very well said. Yeah, can you talk, maybe dive a little deeper into that whole, because I feel like so many people want to know more about manifestation. I will say, since I've taken your workshop, and I've, create my tea in the mornings, I don't know, maybe half the time, I have an intention. And, I'll get in my truck or car or whatever and take off down the road drinking my tea and be like, okay, that's cool. And it's a great way to start the day. But, you, of course, take it many steps further. Can you speak on that a bit?
Yeah, so what we do in that particular workshop is a guided meditation where I want you to visualize exactly the way you want your life to be in this particular thing that you're working on manifesting. So we set an intention, and that might be the way that I'm showing up or like the way I want to receive, right? It's kind of just the spirit of what I'm bringing into this work. And then we layer on that, what do you want to manifest? Let's get real specific down to the details. So when we go through the guided visualization, I talk about not just what you see in the room, but what you're tasting in the room, what you're smelling in the room, how your clothes feel on you, what the temperature is like, right? All of the senses. And when I bring you out of that meditation, we do the same thing in a tea tasting. So it is saying the way that I taste tea can be the way that I experience a moment. And now I've really deeply experienced a moment and I've programmed it in. Right, so going back to this idea that our external universe and our internal universe are constantly aligned, having those things in ritual allows me to base something in reality that says, okay, I am repeating a pattern that I want to practice in my everyday life through this ritual. I'm doing it in a way that is super meaningful to me and connected to my human experience. And so now I go out with full faith that this thing is going to happen. I have multiple modes of reinforcement that this thing is going to happen. It's going to happen, right? It has been pre-programmed and in there. And if you go around and just say, everything I want happens because I just say it and I want it, then you sound nuts like me, right? Because sometimes I just say it that I want it and it's there. But it's because I truly, truly, truly believe that it's already there. It's all there for me, in front of me. I'm doing the things because it reinforces my belief. But if I were really at my heart and my true self, I could deny all of everything and just know everything is perfectly going to plan, and it would. We get in the way of that with our perception of things. Everything in life is perfect timing, but we lack the patience to see it.
Nice. Let me go through my list here. I mean, we've hit on a lot of these. Oh yeah, so alcohol and coffee, evidently, is very much on the decline, and tea is on the incline. So I'd say with the business that you're working on, the business ventures, your timing couldn't be better.
Well, and so here's the thing about the business, right? Like, I didn't know anything about tea trends, right? When I jumped in. So my first public tea ceremony was the Lunar New Year last year, Year of the Wood Snake, right? We're coming up on the Lunar New Year again. So I'm a year in. And that was done in the Westminster Mall, which is the weirdest little abandoned mall, far enough away from the mall music, hopefully, that our meditations, we go, and would work out. And it did. I knew whatever this was, as long as I showed up authentically, that there were people who needed this and people who needed to come on. And what I found over time, it goes back to that on-ramp. What I'm really good at, and I'm not afraid of saying I'm good at it, is taking the sacred and combining it with the creative so that people find a comfort space, something I am doing, right? It's hands-on, it's something I'm immersed in, not just the tasting the tea, but the making the tea spell jar, the pulling the herbs out and holding them and, melting the wax, the sensory experience, getting immersed in that and not making the other stuff seem so heavy, right? My ritual does not need to be super serious. Child sacrifice is optional, I'm joking. But yeah, that's the thing. I think people have this idea of ritual, right? And we're all in cloaks and around candles and stuff. But what ritual is really repetition through relationship. And when you can make that a little fun, I have a lot of people who have never meditated before they come into one of my workshops and they leave and they're like, oh, wow, that was hard. And I have a lot of guys who are like, dragged along, like it's a mostly female scene, right? And I am trying to work on that. Brotherhood of the Bespoke Tea, I'm manifesting that next. Because guys like tea too, and there aren't a lot of spaces to talk spiritually with men. But people get dragged along and they'll find something to connect to. There will be something there, and then maybe it makes them think about, hey, maybe I do have more control over, my life than I felt like when I walked in here, and that's a win.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt very comfortable during the whole workshop. I loved the way you applied all the different, some of the practices that I'm familiar with, but you did it in a very fun way.
The idea was, and Teresa said something to me after that too that brought my mind to it. I hadn't even noticed. So I was a teacher for a decade, seniors in high school, right? Got to keep their attention. Loved that work, absolutely loved it. But in that work, I also found this nonprofit called Avid. And what they did is they created a class for kids who wanted to go to college, but their parents hadn't, and they had no way to know how to navigate this. So they put them in my elective class. And then I had them throughout high school. And then eventually I ran that program for Baltimore County, and we would get $80 million in scholarships a year for our 300 graduates, right? Like in our program, like ridiculous numbers, ridiculous, amazing things. And it's because it was a place where there was no content, right? We had routines, rituals, and we had love in that space. It was a family at the school. And those type of people who teach, right, are really, really special people who teach that to group. I'm not teaching English because I love English. I'm teaching these kids because I want them to go to college. I got to then work for Avid in the summers and teach adults how to do this. So I got a bunch of adults showing up with big hearts and just need some tools. And I get dropped into a new city with a partner I meet. And the next day we've got 150 people for 3 days. And we're going to keep them inspired and moving. And what I do there is what I did here, because there's real work to be done there too, right? Equity is real hard work. But it can be heavy, and you need those moments of up and socialization, etc. And so what I do is you come in, you get centered. It feels very much like you're walking into kind of a traditional spiritual meditative experience. But then there's the up, there's the conversation, there's the experimentation, but then we bring it back again. So there's never too much of one or the other. It really is, going back to Taoism, that duality, like in that workshop, there is the soft, the spiritual, and the still, and there is the active, the communicative. Communicative? No, well, nobody's getting diseases, but communicating, etc. And I think that's important. I think there are absolutely spaces where I want to come and be silent, etc. Right? Like. One of my favorite meditations was early on in this journey. I showed up to a place and it was advertised a silent meditation hour and a half. I'm like, yes, I just want the space. I want the communion. I was the only one who showed up other than the people who owned it, right? But like, I need more of those spaces. So I know there's a need for that. But I also know that there are people out there that don't know how to start the journey. They don't really have a spiritual life, though they're curious about it. And I might be able to say, hey, you like tea? We paint with tea in some of my workshops, you like being creative. Come out and try it out and take what carries with you.
Nice. One of the things I didn't think about until you brought it up at the workshop was the place where you sourced your tea. You go to a spring.
Not water.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Yeah. Source your water for your tea. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So water's super important. Like most of tea is water. Yes. So tea bags in tap water drives me insane. I believe that my job, so I am a Taoist tea witch, but I'm also a tea sommelier. So part of this journey was I started studying. My dad was dying as I was in recovery down in Florida. And as I would go down in his room, I would study to be a tea sommelier. I wanted to have a certification that said, yeah, I'm not just doing this, but I know stuff pretty deeply, right? I guess that comes from kind of my background in academia, having a master's in teaching and all. So I really immersed myself in it. And then one time I went down there and they had a Japanese tea ceremony at the Japanese gardens. And so I went to it and I sat and I waited. And then I sat and I talked with the teishu for 45 minutes. She wasn't as pleased as I was with that amount of time, but I had so many questions and left feeling so knowledgeable. I went back to the hospital room, jumped on my computer, and I took the test. And I became a tea sommelier. My father woke up for a moment, which was rare at that point. And I said, hey, Dad, I'm a tea sommelier. And he goes, he doesn't know, but it was the perfect, and it was one of the last like real dad moments, Okay. I know in his head he's making a joke at me, at that time. And so he got to share that with me. And so what I believe is, in addition to making you aware of the health benefits and the metaphysical correspondences and how to use tea in your energetic work, I also want you to taste a fabulous cup of tea. And water gets in the way. And so I want water that tastes almost like nothing. So I go to the Henryton Spring. It is in Marriottsville. It is right off Henryton Road. It is an ever-flowing free spring. Pull up right on the side and you can just fill up your water. They will post if there's a problem with it. Of course, I boil all of my teas that I use in ceremony, but I do not at home. I drink it and it is unfiltered and has all the minerals I need, and I've been doing it for some time, and many, many people do. Side note, I also maintain a fairy garden in the bamboo forest near the spring. And that is because another thing you'll find in my ceremonies is I love to introduce whimsy, right? And I believe joy is an expression of the belief that the universe is on your side. Because when you are totally enjoying yourself and in a moment of joy, you have thrown caution into the wind. Everything is fine. It is working. That is an expression of the universe alleviating the pressures that make you think that things aren't going to work out the way you want, right? So when we can be joyful in ceremony as well, it is sometimes as meaningful as when we get really deep into ourselves to kind of come out of ourselves and also release in that way. So joy is important, right? So spiritual and whimsical, creative and sacred.
Beautiful. So as we begin to wrap things up, is there anything else that you'd like to speak on? Anything that comes to mind? Any highlights that you'd like to emphasize?
So I think, a lot of times, so we talked a lot about my biography, and I super appreciate that because this is like a day in my life. It's a day after my 2-year sobriety. It just happens to be, that we're sitting down and talking about it. So I'm reflective. And I think a lot of times people say like, don't give up, right? Like if you're watching this and, maybe your next journey is tea and that'll save you, maybe not. But like, don't give up. But I don't think it's don't give up. Like, know your power. Like, find your power. Get it back. It's there. It's not about not giving up. It's about becoming the greatest expression of yourself. And like when we adopt that point of view, it's not about defeating the things that are holding me down. It is about glowing and shining and being the great divine being that I am here on earth. Like that's a different framework. And if you can get there, then the manifestation stuff is so much easier.
Do you think there's, to me, I mean, I think I first heard about it through you, but since then I've heard quite a few people that have had drinking problems, like alcohol drinking problems, have actually moved over to tea. Do you think, what is the correlation there? I know yours was kind of like a do or die sort of a scenario, and you had tea in your background already, like earlier.
Yeah.
But what's going on with a lot of people that are drinking and then they're moving away from that, and why are they picking tea? Like, what is there some sort of correlation that doesn't necessarily apply to you, but something that you've heard about that people can kind of grasp onto?
So it's funny you use the word grasp, because I think it's just simply that. It's having a new cup in your hand.
Okay.
I would love it to be something more profound, but
it seems to work.
There's something about the habit, yes.
Right.
I was at a stage in my alcoholism where I was drinking alcohol when most people should be drinking tea. And so it was an easy sub, It could have been coffee, right? And here's the thing, like, it can be coffee. Like, coffee's an amazing plant, right? Like, if that's your drink, like, get into coffee. Like, what does this bean's energy feel like versus this bean to you, Like, that's why I have people go into the herbs and teas and open them up and smell them. And, yeah, read my lid, sure, but, like, what's coming up for you? Is that hot? You got some fire energy in there, right? Is that, ooh, that reminds you of grandma's kitchen? Like, this is your comfort. Or are you like, nope, then get it away. It's telling you. It's not just you experiencing it. The herb is your ally. The herbs want to reach out to you and say, hey, I'm the one. Don't doubt that Your instinct is there. And so, yes, linden leaf is the herb that we use for wisdom. Why? Because in Athens, the students at university used to study under the linden tree. But for me, wet linden leaves smell like death. And so when I am dealing with mourning, linden leaf is my herb. It's not one that's right or wrong, but go out there, find out what it is. And you could do it with coffee, right? You could do it just with water. Like there's the French Twist Cafe by my place, because they're owned by French people, has like 4 different types of water in the thing. So whatever your thing is, and it doesn't have to be a beverage, find the thing that you can build ritual around that's easy. I drink tea in the morning, right? And so now every morning I have a ritual. And then on my new moons and my full moons, and we got a night, and we're gonna really lean in and use that as a reflective point. So I have my spots where I'm more intensely in that ritual, but I'm also just using ritual as a part of a reminder to myself that things are going where they're supposed to.
So if someone wanted to get a hold of you, to have you come, and I guess you do events, personalized events in homes. Sounds like you're gonna have a couple stations throughout the Baltimore region.
Yep.
How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So yes, I do private events, and I do work with a lot of venues, but I can also do them in home. I do a lot of ticketed events, and I'll be at the Sykesville Farmers Market every Sunday, and I'll be doing readings where I sit with you and herbs, and you tell me some things, the herbs tell me some things, I bring those herbs out, you interact with them, and you create a custom tea from that interaction. So a few different ways that the business works. You can reach me. I really just post all my events on Facebook, so Intentional Tea Time. On Facebook. I will build up my Instagram, but you can also just email me intentionalteatime@gmail.com, and I will send you all the things.
Mike, this has been great. Thank you
very much. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.